There was, prior to banking, prior to coinage, prior to numbers inscribed on stones, a singular problem for all of human existence: how to exchange value. Each and every community, irrespective of its extent and its complexity, grappled with the same set of questions. How can we trade justly? How can we store value? What role, if any, must debt and obligation play within this equation? These questions would have initially been matters of survival rather than philosophy. The financial system did not evolve from some clever invention or from the plans of the elite. Rather, it arose as a solution to uncertainty. To grasp the existence of the world's first financial system, one must forget what one thinks one knows about money and remember a world that is without money, without prices, without banks, a world of people, of natural resources, of memory, of trust. And one thing that pervades it all is the question of what is owed and how it is remembered. For 30 to 50,000 years, humans lived through a system of bartering. If one person had meat and another had grains, a trade was made. If one person was a tool maker and another was a livestock raiser, a trade was made. This was fine. The population was small. The requirements were minimal. Trust was based on a person-to-person relationship. The individual with whom a person traded was well known. The past generosity was remembered. This system had a flaw, though, and it was masked by bartering. What if one person wanted to trade, but another did not need his trade at a particular point in time? The system failed. Economists would say this happened because of the coincidence of wants. However, in real life, it was much simpler. The trade did not materialize. Bartering started getting slow and inefficient as society grew. Then comes time. What if the farmer needed seeds but only harvested after so many years? What if someone worked now but hadn't been given food yet? There was one problem with this. This was not bartering. It took memory. It took trust. It took forced repayment. Thus began the world of finance. It is around 9000 BCE, and something quietly radical is happening in the Near East. Humans halt their migration. They settle. They begin to till the earth. Everything is revolutionized, not just agricultural patterns, but the notion of value itself. Grain, particularly barley and wheat, becomes central to life. For the first time, riches are measurable and portable more than a growing season. Grain is numerable, measurable, storable, and reattributable. Grain became something to be promised.
When you lend value now and get value back later, you take risk, endure the loss of opportunity, and are faced with uncertainty. You are compensated through an interest charge. The first known interest charges began to appear in the economy of Mesopotamia to the tune of between 20 to 33% for loans in grain or 20% for loans in silver. Standardization made trade easier because value was expressed in standardized weights of barley or silver. Scribes kept books in the form of cuneiform writings that expressed transactions, debts, and rates of interest. Barley was the currency in local trade, with standardized values for other commodities. Silver, the most precious metal, valued by weights, facilitated large-scale transactions and foreign trade. Bronze made its appearance later and even acted as currency. This standard rate seems high by modern comparisons and may have been sound for an era where droughts, floods, and wars were common. While it enabled the creation of more wealth, it caused inequality too. Quote, "Those who controlled the credit controlled the means of survival." So consider this. Would you, controlling access to grain, ever find yourself powerless? Unregulated finance usually leads to chaos in the end. By about 1750 BCE, the Babylonians found themselves with a debt problem, abuse, litigation. The solution? The law code itself. The Code of Hammurabi prescribed regulations regarding loans, deposits, contracts, and punishing debtors. A new era, finance codified under public law. Debt was now enforceable under the law. Politics and money merged now too. The financial systems moved from the temple to the government now too. But now the trouble was finance was regional. Grain rotting, cattle dying off, the clay tablet staying put, the trade of the world expanding nevertheless. A new way was required now. In 600 BCE, in Lydia, an ancient civilization in what is now Turkey, kings started marking coins using official symbols carved into metal. This was convenient because you didn't have to rely on something that rots. It was portable, and its value was consistent. What was initially mere metal now existed as an official coin. Coins transitioned from being in temples to being in pockets. The Republic of Siena established Banca Monte dei Paschi di Siena in 1472. With the unity of Italy, it expanded, branching into new businesses such as mortgage loans, historical firsts in Italy. It remained government-owned until the end of the 19th century, publicly supported and shielded, made to last. It weathered wars, pestilence, revolutions, and contemporary troubles. It is still around today. This marked the establishment of banking itself. Others would follow in the form of public banks and later central banks, finances unshackled from gold and tied to institutional bases. By the time banking arrived in modern times, banking was a full-blown system. Deposits, loans, credits, central banks, government guarantees, all springing from grain, from clay, from trust. The contemporary financial setting encompasses financial institutions. These institutions act as middlemen between the savers and the borrowers. They range from central banks to investment banks and other organizations. Financial markets. This refers to market avenues where commodities such as stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies are bought and sold. Financial instruments, stocks, bonds, options, and derivatives that facilitate